Whether you know him from his lengthy tenure as one half of the comedy duo Cheech and Chong, or as a solo performer and actor, Cheech Marin has been a constant presence in the pop culture scene since he started making waves over 4 decades ago. This is the untold truth of Cheech Marin. As an actor and musician, Cheech Marin has made his name with his voice and face. As such, some might find it quite surprising that he was born with a cleft lip. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention defines cleft lip and its sister condition, cleft palate, as birth defects that occur when a baby's lip or mouth do not form properly during pregnancy. This can leave a fissure on the person's upper lip or palate, which can create communication and eating problems unless it's repaired. Fortunately, Marin's cleft was fixed, and judging by the lack of noticeable scarring in his upper lip, it's probably safe to assume that the operation was quite successful. As an interesting coincidence, actor Stacy Keach, Marin's co-star in Cheech and Chong films Up in Smoke and Nice Dreams, went through a similar ordeal as a child. Keach has told the American Cleft Palate Craniofacial Association that he was also born with a cleft. In his case, it required 4 surgeries to fix. Cheech is a very strange moniker, so while the world has gotten used to the name Cheech Marin, it's probably not a huge surprise that it isn't the entertainer's given name. In a 2017 interview with NPR, he revealed that he received the curious call sign very early on, courtesy of his uncle. Marin told NPR, "Cheech is my nickname. It always has been, in my family, short for chicharron. You know, pork rinds. When I came home from the hospital, I was like a couple days old or something. My uncle came over and he looked in the crib and he said, 'He looks like a little chicharron, you know?' While that may seem like a harsh name to impose on a baby, it turned out to mesh very well with his future comedy partner, Tommy Chong. Then again, Marin might just harbor a tiny bit of unspoken resentment toward his lifelong nickname, considering the fact that he named his memoir, Cheech is not my real name, but don't call me Chong. Oh, and in case you're curious, Marin's actual first name is Richard. The strong accent Cheech Marin employs in his roles may make some assume that he's bilingual, or possibly even speaking English as a second language. However, in an interview with The Bend Mag, he noted that the Spanish language actually isn't a massive part of his toolkit. He told the magazine, "I grew up in neighborhoods where there weren't very many Mexicans, and so I was always the Mexican, and I always thought, well, I am not Mexican. I've never even been to Mexico, and I don't speak Spanish." The term Chicano started out as a racial slur, but the Chicano movement of the 1960s saw the Mexican-American community reclaim the term for itself.
Chicano is a voluntary category. You have to declare yourself a Chicano in order to be one.
Marin identifies strongly with Chicano culture, but as he stated in a blog post on his website, he remained an exclusive English speaker, even though many of his relatives spoke Spanish well. Despite this, Marin has made it clear that he understands and appreciates the importance of languages, and has in fact studied Spanish as an adult. Still, considering that he was in his 70s during the Bend Mag interview, he seems to largely consider himself a non-speaker. Even people who are familiar with Cheech Marin's work might not be aware that he was once close to becoming a very different counterculture icon. According to the Los Angeles Times, the comedian once attempted to join Frank Zappa and his Mothers of Invention. The year was 1968, and Zappa was auditioning singers for his peculiar doo-wop project, Cruisin' with Ruben and the Jets. Along came Marin, who later recalled the experience in the liner notes of Zappa compilation album Greasy Love Songs. Marin wrote, "There was already an audition going on in the living room, but it was for guitar players. Don Van Vliet, otherwise known as Captain Beefheart, was running through guitar players for his band. Frank nodded to me and indicated that I should chill. He was so cool. He was Frank Zappa." The evidently starstruck Marin hung on until Beefheart wrapped up, and when his turn came, he actually managed to impress Zappa, or at least he thinks he did. Marin wrote, "I started to sing. One of the consistent things I can do as a singer is stay on key. This seemed to please Mr. Zappa because he nodded in time." Unfortunately for young Marin, Zappa ultimately wasn't quite excited enough to hire him, and the two men moved on to create their separate legacies. It's difficult to talk about Cheech Marin's legacy without mentioning Tommy Chong, his longtime partner in comedy. As the New York Post tells us, Cheech and Chong met when the Los Angeleno Marin moved to Chong's native Canada in order to avoid the Vietnam War. Chong had a fondness for improvisational comedy, and since both men were musical and funny, they decided to team up. Though their famous stoner characters were technically called Pedro and Man, the pair remains best known as simply Cheech and Chong. The two counterculture icons went on to make numerous music albums and stoner comedies, and as Chong told the Calgary Herald in 2016, they blazed the trail for many future entertainment icons. As such, he says they command a lot of respect in the industry. Chong told the newspaper, "More than anything, I see the influence in the movie industry. I know we influenced the hell out of Quentin Tarantino. He even admits it, talking about watching Cheech and Chong movies over and over again." Cheech really created the Chicano persona. You know, George Lopez and Paul Rodriguez and all those guys. Cheech Marin and Tommy Chong seemed like the world's most laid-back comedy duo, but in reality, the two started drifting apart as the years went by. The pair met near the end of the 1960s and steadily built their act until their movies started making waves a decade later. Unfortunately, their relationship soured over time, and in 1987, Marin broke out on his own. In an interview with the New York Post, Marin makes it clear that as far as he's concerned, the rift between the pair was largely caused by the way Chong let the fame go to his head, became too controlling, and was unable to evolve beyond his man character. This, Marin said, led to Chong trying to keep him back as well. Marin told the Post, "He just couldn't do it, but he still wanted to cling on to me and control me, and that wasn't working."
We had always directed and written together, and then at some point he decided he wanted to be the director and dictate everything that was going to happen.
Regardless of the reasons the pair originally strayed apart, they reunited in 2008 and started touring again. Though they had their difficulties at first, at least the worst of their old troubles seemed to be water under the bridge. Cheech Marin left Tommy Chong in 1987 to embark on what has turned out to be a truly illustrious solo entertainment career. As Marin himself put it, the film he directed, wrote, and starred in that year, Born in East LA, essentially kicked off the rest of his life. Apart from the expected comedy appearances, he's also appeared in plenty of serious projects. In fact, one of his most famous post-Cheech and Chong roles was in the CBS police procedural Nash Bridges, in which he starred opposite Don Johnson for a cool 6 seasons. Apart from acting in a multitude of roles, Marin has also capitalized on his highly recognizable voice, with a successful voice acting career.
I saw that on the movie.
As fans of Robert Rodriguez movies know, if you put on one of the director's films, you have a fairly decent chance to spot Cheech Marin before long. They're super frequent collaborators, and while you can spot the comedian in the director's family-friendly Spy Kids franchise, he also appears in much of Rodriguez's bloodier fare, such as Desperado, From Dusk Till Dawn, and Machete. As Marin has told the Latin Post, he's witnessed Rodriguez's rise to the higher plateaus of Hollywood from the director's humble student film beginnings, and has relished the experience. He was initially wary of joining Rodriguez's movies, thinking that his goofy artistic reputation wouldn't match the director's splatter aesthetic. However, Rodriguez's Spy Kids side won the actor over. Rodriguez and Marin are more than just common collaborators, they're actually great friends in real life. Marin told the Latin Post, "Robert and I were friends from the beginning. He would come over the house with his wife and stay with me. He's like family. He knew that he could always call on me if he needed this or that. We have this direct communication. He's looking through the lens, the viewfinder, and he's talking to me." Should one be in the habit of assuming that comedians are the same as their best-known characters, it would come as quite a surprise that Cheech Marin is a patron of the arts. In fact, he's quite a bit more than just a casual patron. Based in the Riverside Art Museum in California, the Cheech Marin Center for Chicano Art, Culture, and Industry is the home base of Marin's art collection, which the center says is nothing more or less than, quote, "the finest private collection of Chicano art in the United States." Per the San Diego Union Tribune, Marin also has a number of art books to his name, and he's very active in the art community. Though many of his pieces are displayed in the Cheech, parts of the collection are often loaned to other museums and galleries. In an interview with NPR, Marin noted that Chicano art and his comedy career have quite a bit in common. He said about Cheech and Chong's brand of comedy, It's very much like Chicano art. It is sophisticated and primitive simultaneously. Cheech Marin is a great many things, and some of them you'd never guess just by looking at his body of work. For instance, the San Diego Union Tribune reveals that the stoner comedy icon is an absolutely massive fan of jazz music, a trait he shares with his long-term comedy partner Tommy Chong. In fact, Marin feels that the music's improvisational nature is similar to Cheech and Chong's particular brand of comedy. Marin had the honor of running into jazz legend Miles Davis at a small sushi bar once, only to find out that the musician recognized him. Marin told the newspaper, "Miles had dark black glasses on. He saw me at the bar. I had never met him. And he took off his glasses and said, 'Hey, weed?' That was cool." Miles Davis said, "Hey, weed," to me. In an interview with the San Diego Union Tribune, Cheech Marin revealed something that one might not expect from him based on his laid-back counterculture comedian persona. He's an avid golfer. Marin picked up the hobby after playing Kevin Costner's caddy in 1996's Tin Cup, and has evidently become pretty good. Golf Digest has named him the 31st best celebrity golfer in Hollywood, and in 2013, he actually landed his first hole-in-one. His website notes that he's fond of attending charity tournaments. Interestingly, Marin apparently shares his love of golf with another famous cannabis aficionado, Willie Nelson. According to the comedian, the country star has even managed to marry his two favorite hobbies. Marin told The Morning Call, "Willie, every time I see him, gives me a bag of weed. It's the best golf weed." When asked to elaborate, he was happy to reveal why. "Well, you can smoke it and still play golf. You get into the zen of it." Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite legendary actors and comedians are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.